Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Bechet, and this is the AAF Exchange, a podcast from the American Action Forum, where experts provide clear, data-driven insights into today's economic and domestic policy issues. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. On this episode of the AAF Exchange, a look back at the year's biggest economic and policy news, and what to watch for as we head into 2026. Joining us to discuss all of this is AAF President Douglas Holtz-Eakin. Doug, thanks for joining us.
I am delighted to be here. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you as well. We're coming up to the end of the year, so, this is a podcast that we like to do every year, so, we look back a little bit, but then we also try and be a little optimistic about the future, or I think we always fail at that, but we'll try again this year.
Here we go. Hope springs eternal.
So as we close the books on 2025, we got a fresh round of jobs and CPI numbers. We saw some interesting numbers. What's your take? Where does the economy stand?
So let's do the jobs report first. The unemployment rate continues to drift up. It's now at 4.6%, up from a recent low in 2023 of 3.4%. So we've seen unemployment rates rising, and in some places like African American unemployment up 2 percentage points, and that's a noticeable increase. Worth keeping an eye on that. We got 64,000 jobs in November, all in health, one more time. So the private sector is not generating jobs, broadly speaking. The health sector is, no one else is. We're down in manufacturing. That's been the centerpiece of the administration's efforts, so that can't be a rewarding result. And we had this huge impact on the numbers in October, which was all federal employees rolling off the payroll, largely the buyouts that the DOGE effort initiated. So they took the buyout in April, and they went off the rolls at the end of October, and we had a big negative number there. So that I think that jobs report read overall is sort of dead flat in the water still. Nothing too exciting happening. We saw a big jump in the U6, the broader measure of underemployment, and it was went from 8 in September to 8.7 in November. It's a 2-month move, but that's huge. And that was driven by part-time work for economic reasons. Trying to dissect that a little bit, it looks like that could be an impact of the government shutdown, where during the survey week, some of those workers were government workers who were working part-time because the shutdown had just ended. So, yeah, who knows? Yeah. So that's the employment report, sort of flat in the water, a lot like what we've seen before. The CPI was surprising. Top line inflation came in down from 3 to 2.7. Top line, the core came in down from 3 to 2.6. Taken at face value, those are incredibly good numbers. Now begins the process of dissecting them. Like, how did this happen? Shelter inflation was 0 over the 2 months from September to November. I don't buy that. Right. So yeah. There are going to be some questions raised about some of the details in here, and since you should never believe 1 month's data to begin with, this is probably the least likely month to believe in, right? Because of the survey questions and different weeks, condensed periods. We'll see going forward if it sticks.
Yeah. So how does the Fed look at this? I mean, how do they?
Well, I think you always ask the question: what if they'd had this number in hand when they made their decisions? Maybe they wouldn't have had as much dissent about cutting, right? This reinforces the hand, I think, of those who want to cut. Relatively flat at best employment report, relatively modest inflation report. That leans toward the employment mandate, makes it easier to cut. As Powell said, though, they're well positioned going forward because they're in the range of neutral. I don't think we're at break the glass levels of anything here, and we're still above 2%. Yeah, it's great. We're at 2.7. That's exciting. We're at 2.3 in April, and so.
Yeah,
we got to get some progress.
Everyone's doing a victory lap today, saying, "Oh, it's down 0.3." Well, we're still far
allowed a victory quarter lap.
Yeah, fair enough.
But that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's good news. Obviously, we don't want to dampen that. Like you said, it's a quarter lap. But yeah, we still have a long way to go in all this. All right, so before we look ahead at some of the policy areas in 2026, let's recap this year in policy, starting with DOGE, which, for those who may have forgotten, stands for the Department of Government Efficiency. So did it live up to its name? What did it accomplish?
This will go down as, I think, an effort that was uniquely naive and inhumane simultaneously. It's unbelievable. It was naive to believe that you could come in and radically change the spending structure of the federal government with a handful of people and some coding skills.
Yeah.
I mean, I just never understood where they were coming from. Their handling of people's careers is literally not excusable in my view. Mm-hmm. In the end, we're down about 200,000 federal employees. That saved some money. It produced a lot of chaos in the process. I will remind listeners that Bill Clinton downsized the federal government by 400,000 employees, and no one even knew it went on. They ran the process, used a lot of retirements as a way to do things, shuffled the jobs around. So this could have all been done in a more orderly and less disruptive fashion. So I can't get excited about Doge as an event. Mm-hmm. And it's now over. I mean, they've declared that it's done. You recall when it was announced, it was going to be outside experts who were going to deliver a report on July 4th, 2026, just in time for the anniversary. None of that's going to happen. It can't, by its own standards, it's a failure.
Yeah.
And it's just it's going to look back. We're going to think, well, what was that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like in the beginning, it could have been so much better. You could have come up with these ways to eliminate jobs by attrition. To okay, where can we save money in these departments and deliver that report to Congress? Congress was on board for that. I mean, Joni Ernst, I think, was going to lead the charge in Congress, and then it took on this complete. They did this complete U-turn.
Every time someone goes into the Pentagon, it turns out it's impossible to get a clean audit. Every time someone goes into the IRS, they say, gee, we need IT infrastructure modernized. You go around the federal government, what you see is a lasting tribute to the best technologies of 2005. They could have done something really significant if they had stuck to their skill set and worked with it, but they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of government agencies. I mean, it might not have been part of this, but we just all have to go back to remember the FAA playing, basically like running all of their technology on a screen that looks like an Atari board,
and still reliant on CD-ROMs to make the whole thing go. This is nuts.
Yeah, so that could have been somewhere where it would have been useful. Anyways, on another event that happened, a big policy event that happened this year. In April, President Trump announced his Liberation Day. The outcome of these tariffs, even the tariffs themselves, are far from settled. That said, what impact have these tariffs had, and where does the administration go from here?
So, again, to recap, the Liberation Day tariffs were these International Economic Emergency Powers Act across-the-board tariffs on countries. Those are the ones that are at the Supreme Court. We expect the ruling in January, and those are the ones that were shockingly large, naively constructed to set the bilateral trade deficit to zero with everybody, and the fallout was immediate and enormous. He then delayed them for 90 days. We've forgotten all this stuff. But meanwhile, while that was playing out, we're doing these Section 232 tariffs for national security reasons on everything under the sun. And the list is now longer than I can literally remember.
Yeah.
Including, dangerous IKEA bathroom furniture. So that makes a lot of sense. So what have the tariffs done? Well, tariffs are taxes on imports. Given the structure of U.S. trade, roughly half of those imports are intermediates, so those are cost shocks to the entire business sector. Substantial cost shocks. We've raised about $200 billion in tariff revenue, so it's a lot of money. And for those that aren't intermediates, they're final goods, so that's a cost shock to the consumer. So there's no question they've had an impact on price levels and cost structures in the United States. We get this week CPI report, you're going to hear people say, see, the tariffs don't cause inflation. But to deny that they raise the prices of things is like saying there's no gravity. It's just that there's more going on out there in the economy than just tariffs, and we're getting the net impact.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, to pick up on the economy, thing there. I think a lot of that, has been said is about the AI boom and all those things have sort of masked and then of course the avoiding tax hikes and.
So there are two things going on that I think I don't understand, which I believe are going on. Let's put it that way. Roughly speaking, in the third quarter, which is now over, it looks like we got almost no growth in labor inputs and about 3.5% growth in output. That means we're having a huge productivity boom. Why? I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish I knew. I don't know. But if that's true, that gives you enormous disinflation pressures. Because if you get that big productivity boom, unit costs are going down. And
right.
We saw that in 2023. That was a big part of the success. Here we go again. That leans against the tariffs. So there's stuff going on there. And the top-line decline in energy prices has been enormous. And that's helped top-line inflation. So if you look at the impact of the tariffs, they did what they did. They're going to raise the price level. It's going to look like inflation in the near term. Other things are going the other way. The other thing is their taxes. Mm-hmm. So there's a big tax hike.
Yeah.
And if you go by the numbers, it's one of the largest tax hikes in U.S. economic history. And that, other things being the same, slows demand and has really slowed the goods sector, manufacturing in particular, to a dead halt. This is a manufacturing recession. It's disguised by everything else, but that's what's going
interesting.
on.
Yeah. So you also mentioned it is a tax hike, so it's bringing in more revenue, and they keep pointing to that. But is there a cost? I mean, what's the cost? You like doing cost benefit analysis? Is there, I
think it's a pretty simple one, which is if you wanted to raise a substantial amount of revenue, this is the worst choice.
Yeah.
Like, it is a really distortionary tax. It's highly regressive. It's incredibly hard to comply with and administer. I think the compliance costs for small businesses are hard to calculate, very real. Figuring out what the tariff is on a particular good coming from a particular country, it's just a big exercise.
Right.
So I don't think this comes close to passing a cost-benefit test.
Yeah, I know Jacob Jensen, our trade policy guy, has really focused on the impact on small businesses too.
He's done a great job all year, but I think we've broken him.
Yeah, I think he needs a vacation. He looked pretty. I don't want to call him out, but he looked like he was
bad. Like man needs a vacation.
He needs a vacation. He needs to go see some sunlight for a while. All right, let's. So for our final podcast, it's been kind of a tradition for me to sit here and give you a little rapid fire about what to expect in 2026 on some key domestic policy issues. So let's start with government funding, since this current CR runs out in about a month.
January, we get to the end of January, we got another showdown. I don't believe they'll shut the government again, but I didn't believe they'd shut it last time, and I didn't believe it would last very long. It lasted a record length. So my track record on this forecast is not good. I don't understand why Republicans wouldn't be extraordinarily interested in putting their stamp on annual appropriations. Another CR just keeps in place Biden-era priorities, and I just, I think that'd be a mistake. So the appropriators need to plead with the rest of the caucus in both chambers to say, look, we got to get this done, get our priorities. Yep. They're not going to get everything they want. They need to anticipate that, but that's what should happen, and I'm hopeful that will happen. Mm-hmm. The healthcare debate is one which roils all of this, because Democrats are winning on healthcare at the moment, and they may try to play the same card. We'll see.
Yeah. I will say, I think I read in Punchbowl this morning that Schumer, to his credit, has said there's no appetite for another shutdown. We want to go through the bipartisan appropriations process.
And I think that's right for both parties.
Yeah.
That's the logical outcome.
Yeah. Sometimes
emotions rule, and we've seen that.
Yep. How?
Yes.
It tends to come into play. Yeah. Speaking of healthcare, what do you think is going to happen in that debate?
That's going to be an incredibly heated and unproductive debate in 2026. There's a real issue, which is an issue that has been around since the election leading into the Affordable Care Act, which is the rising cost of care. We have focused a lot on access to care, universal coverage. We haven't dealt with what is the value proposition in health. Like, what are you getting for your money? Can you get it cheaper? Can you get better quality for the same price? That we're going to come back and talk about that. Nobody is ready to come up with anything that looks like real solutions there. So there's just going to be a lot of finger pointing through the midterms, and then hopefully they'll get serious about this and actually come to some bipartisan effort on that front.
Unfortunately, the hearing you attended on the healthcare debate, it was not a good omen for things to come, in my mind, about policy discussions.
In terms of sort of verbal beanballs, it was a really interesting exercise, but that was about it.
What about trade?
Supreme Court rules, and then one way or another, Trump goes back and either keeps the tariffs if he's allowed to, or replicates them using other authorities that are not in question. And we now have this restructured trade. I think the wild card, to me, is China, Xi, and Trump. Because it looks to me like, given the NVIDIA deal, Trump's repeated essentially kindness toward Xi personally. He's not singling him out, and he's shown a lot of antipathy toward Europe. And I just see a sort of realignment in that relationship, from one where he claims that we can't just be openly combative and separating from China. We have to work with them. I can cut a deal. I'm Donald Trump. So that is worth watching.
Interesting. AI.
It's all about AI, and I have no idea what's going to happen. We've done a pile of investment in AI capabilities, and I think collectively the net return's been about zero so far. We're going to do round two. You're seeing this sort of shake up in the race, like who's on top? Is it OpenAI? Is it Google? That's going to continue, and businesses are going to be better than get better at buying this, and they're going to stop saying, I want some AI, and start saying, my business needs to be able to do X, Y, and Z, deliver that product, and AI will become a much more nuanced sort of set of products that hits specific needs, and then you get real productivity from it.
Interesting.
That's the next round.
What about regulation?
They have taken steps to remove an enormous amount of regulation from the books. If you look at the proposed rulemakings, it's $700 billion in regulatory relief. What do they get finalized, and when does it happen? I mean, I have little doubt that this strategy will produce a more contained regulatory state. The only question is how fast does it arrive?
Mm-hmm. And then finally, the economic outlook.
The economic outlook, I think, remains sort of so-so, right? That's a technical term. Inflation is above the target. The Fed can't literally ease dramatically as long as that's true, so they stay higher than they would like to for longer. That produces slower growth in demand than we otherwise would have. The inflation irritates people. But at the same time, we've seen rising unemployment, and so we got a little stagflationist sort of feel in the first half. And then we get a big fiscal push out of the tax bill from last summer, and I think the second half of 2026 looks pretty good.
Interesting. Well, bonus question. Chances of a Patriots-Steelers AFC championship?
Oh, I don't see the Patriots making a championship game. Come on. No chance of that.
Yeah, I don't see the Steelers making it out of the first round. So,
I think the real question is, will the Steelers be in the first round?
Well, the real question is, will you guys get to above 500 again, or will it
be? Yes. But I mean,
we could do you a favor this week with the Ravens, but
I got to get past the Seahawks and the Rams tonight. Remember, I'm married to a Seahawks fan,
that's right.
And so
that's
a big hurdle.
I need JSN to go off tonight, so I'm with the Seahawks tonight.
Our interests align for only a moment.
A brief moment in time. Actually, I don't even care about the outcome. I just want JSN to have a good game. All right, Doug, it's been a pleasure doing this podcast with you all year. I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I hope you had as much fun as I did.
I did.
And I look forward to what 2026 brings us.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Tune back in for our next episode, where our experts will provide clear, data-driven insights into today's economic and domestic issues. I'd also encourage you to check out any of the links in our show notes, and also follow us on social media to learn more about AAF. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play.